It is July 11th, 2024, and I am here with your geopolitical news. Al Jazeera reports visualizing how Israel keeps stealing Palestinian land. Israel has illegally seized more land this year than over the past 20 years combined. So, is it plausible that this military campaign inside of Gaza was really about occupying completely Palestinian land? In 2024, Israel illegally seized 2.7 square kilometers, kilometers, 9.15 square miles of Palestinian land in the occupied West Bank amid its ongoing war on Gaza. That's more than the land it took over the past 20 years combined. So now, understand why that question is plausible. Was this really about taking land? Was this really about displacing these people, knowing very well that the rest of the world would not care, would not actually lift a finger to do anything? Because once again, all you have to do is get your news media outlets to propagate that these people are terrorists. And there you have it. There goes your blank check to do whatever it is that you feel you need to do as it relates to a military campaign. And that's the way it is with these Western powers and their allies. This is the continued action, ongoing action that they continuously commit around the world. So the question is, was this really about stealing Palestinians' land? Because what else could it be about? You're pushing the Palestinians further and further, almost as if you're trying to make them flee their land completely and go somewhere else. Just leave and go somewhere else. So that way the Israelis can occupy the whole Gaza Strip. That's ultimately what they probably want to do. They act as if this is not in their wishes, but their actions are directly in contradiction to what they're saying. So that's the question that we need to ask ourselves. On top of the fact that I very well feel like this is a ethnic cleansing. On top of that fact, you have the stealing of Palestinians' land. In other geopolitical news, Al Jazeera reports China slams NATO's provocations, lies, smears over its Russia ties. NATO accuses China of playing a key role in Russia's war in Ukraine and expresses concern over its nuclear and space capabilities. China has warned NATO against provoking confrontation over its ties with Russia after the Western military alliance accused Beijing of being a decisive enabler of Moscow's war against Ukraine. The warning on Thursday came as NATO leaders meeting in Washington, D.C. promised to bolster Ukraine and Europe's defense against Russia and made it clear that China was also becoming a focus of the alliance. So, what does this all mean? Well, you know, people are joining up, people are coming together. And, the West and its allies have done it for so many decades, so many decades. So it is not surprising to see the adversaries of the West and its allies. It is not surprising to see their adversaries coming together. And so this is what leads me to believe that this conflict will reach heights that will bring us towards World War III. And the reason why I'm saying that is because there are so many players on this board as it relates to geopolitical events going on around the world. There's so many players on this board. And as I said to you seconds ago, there are alliances that are being made. So if this part of the world doesn't want to work with you, well, then you can find alliances in another part of the world. And these alliances may very well be or may very well have enemies. And so China, when I look at China, I think to myself that here's a country that has made itself an empire. And I mean, an empire beyond empires. And so the need for trade with China is essential for many countries. For so many countries, it's essential. And it's the same way with Russia. And so when you look at these conflicts, you look at the things that's being said, the United States of America is concerned about China's involvement because China is allies with Russia and Russia is at war with Ukraine. Well, it's the same way with Iran. You're concerned about Russia's relationship with Iran as well because they exchange military capabilities, they exchange information. And I don't believe that Russia would allow Iran to be destroyed either. So pay attention to these conflicts, pay attention to the things that's being said, pay attention to the players that's on the board, and pay attention to the actions that they make. In other geopolitical news, Al Jazeera reports Sudanese refugees hiding in Ethiopian forests to escape bandits and militias. Sudanese refugees in Ethiopia asked to be evacuated from the country after facing repeated attacks from local militias. Thousands of Sudanese refugees are dwelling in the forest near Ethiopia's border with Sudan after surviving attacks by local militias on United Nations-run refugee camps. The refugees fled in May after gunmen and bandits repeatedly stormed the camps to steal supplies, rape women, kidnap people for ransom, and terrify civilians. Now, the question that I have, the part where it says United Nations run refugee camps. You see, I got a problem with that, as you should. How is it possible that a refugee camp that was set up by the United Nations can have bandits and militias overrunning these camps? I find it to be very careless and utter stupidity for you to try to convince us that there is no security at these places, knowing very well that the United Nations has a security force. So is it your assertion that you're not leaving any military personnel to oversee these camps, these refugee run camps? Are you not leaving any security in place so that these refugees are in a safe place and they remain in a safe place for as long as they need to be there? I mean, this is just common sense when you're dealing with the people who have just escaped such a tragedy or such a hardship and they're being moved to a certain place and you're supposed to be under a certain protection. In other geopolitical news, I'm on a YouTube platform, and many of you may have missed this story. This is Fox 5 New York. Daniel Hayden, suspect in Lower East Side crash that killed three, charged with manslaughter. So this is something, an incident that happened on the 4th of July. Many people were out celebrating. Many people were out, enjoying fireworks, festivities. Many people were having cookouts that day. Many people were just outside, just chilling with their family and friends, as they do every year and have been doing with their family and friends on this holiday. And so it's an annual thing. It's not far fetched, or it's not, you know, surprising to see so many people outside on this very day. You can go through so many different communities, and as I've said, you can just smell the barbecue. You can see people gathering and getting ready for cookouts and different events. And so this is a very eventful day. So the video that I'm about to play for you is very disturbing. Once again, this is the Street Icon podcast. So it's imperative that I bring you guys, you know, the worst of the worst topics, the worst of the worst news, so that you guys can stay informed. Even though you might not appreciate or like what you see, as I don't, but you need to be informed and you need to stay informed.
Daniel Hayden is being charged with aggravated vehicular homicide and manslaughter and more. The 4th of July celebration, in a split second, turned into a horrific tragedy as the driver of a pickup truck crashes his truck into a...
So the driver of a pickup truck, he's driving in a pickup truck, and he crashes into people celebrating on the 4th of July. Now, what they're going to say is that this individual was intoxicated. And that even makes the situation that much more worse, to know that this individual was out driving on that day in such a reckless manner, and this is the result of what happened.
Crowd of people, killing 3 people there. Police say he was drunk at the time. Fox 5's Duarte Giardino is live at the scene with the latest, including the suspect being officially charged today. Duarte. Arthur, police say not only was Daniel Hayden drunk, they also point out this man was driving with a suspended license, and tonight he's being held without bail.
So now you're drunk and you're driving such a powerful vehicle, and you have a suspended license. You're not even supposed to be driving a vehicle. You know, bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. I'm pretty sure this individual is sitting in a cell right now, wherever he is, and you're sober now, and you realize, or maybe you have, or maybe you haven't come to grips with what you have done. Maybe you have seen it. Maybe somebody has informed you. Maybe, you know, maybe your loved ones are informing you, but you have had to come to grips with what you have done at this point, at least in my mind, because you're not intoxicated anymore. Apparently he seems to have suffered some injuries, but the injuries doesn't seem to have come from the accident itself. Apparently there was some form of street justice that was dished out on that day, because this individual tried to flee the scene. So the injuries that this individual has sustained, and the injuries that you will see appearing on this individual, no, they didn't come from the car crash. They came from the street justice that was dished out because he tried to flee.
Daniel Christopher Hyden barely lifted his head during his arraignment. He faces 25 years in prison. Investigators say he tried to evade sobriety tests after the crash by closing his eyes. I got angry. He refused.
So not only did you try to flee the scene, and people basically had to force you to stay, they had to keep you there. But even when the authorities arrived, you even tried to uh, negate the authorities' investigation by not cooperating. By not cooperating, and you can look and see the carnage. You can look and see what you have done. I am appalled that you were not willing to cooperate. How can you not be willing to cooperate when you see very well the destruction, the death that you have just caused in an instant? How could you be unwilling to cooperate?
Is to lift his head up. Be a man about it. Lift your head up. Whether there's evidence against you, lift your head up and be a man about it. Obviously, you're not a man because you can't face the music.
You know, I agree and I disagree with that statement right there. I don't believe that this man has anything to lift his head up or hold his head up high about. So I understand this man's disposition about, at least hold your head up and at least, face the music, so to say. But, in reality, there's nothing to hold your head up high about. And I believe that if he did such a thing, then he would be perceived as being arrogant. If he did act like he was holding his head up high and he was, going to remain strong in this situation and face the music, and if he did act that way, it might be perceived as insensitive. And so the man needs to be in complete and utter shame. He's holding his head down because this is a shameful act that he has just committed. There's nothing to hold his head up high about.
Thomas Courteau is a friend of the family, and he was in court Saturday morning. Everyone's devastated. Who thinks on the 4th of July you're pretty safe in that area? No one they didn't have any clue this guy was going to come barreling down water in Jackson Street, drunk like a skunk. Hyden is accused of killing 59-year-old Lucille Pickney, her 38-year-old son Herman, and 43-year-old Anna Morale. Hyden is
And that's just, a mother was killed with her son that day. You know, that's very, very sad, for a mother to be killed with her son next to her child. That's a very, very sad thing. And this lady was also killed as well. And this all happened in an instant.
charged with multiple crimes, including vehicular homicide, manslaughter, and driving while intoxicated. According to court documents, when police arrived, Hyden was on the ground next to the truck driver's side door. Investigators say he was bloodied and wearing pants, but no shirt or shoes, and when he stood up, his balance was uneven. These court photos show his bruised face. From the little street justice he got. He had a fat lip and a swollen eye. And might have been when he was yanked out of the truck. He was trying to get away.
Yeah, so, even this man admits that there was a little street justice that was given out because he tried to get away from the scene. And I'm pretty sure that he was very nervous and very scared. If he's intoxicated, then he I can't imagine that he was fully aware of what he actually done. So yeah, this is a tragic situation.
According to authorities, Hyden was also driving with a suspended license when he allegedly crashed into 11 people. He has a son at home with no mother and no brother. He's home by himself without his mother and brother. He took 2 dozen family and what's job. Prosecutors brought up Hyden's professional history. He's a substance abuse counselor who wrote a book called The Sober Addict, an irony that further enrages victims' families. We are going to miss her so much.
So this individual is a substance abuse counselor or was a substance abuse counselor. also wrote a book about substance abuse, only only to be arrested for substance abuse and the killing of various different individuals on the 4th of July. Tragic story. In other geopolitical news, right now I'm on a YouTube platform. This is a previous post that I made. This is about emergency rule 213. And so if many of you haven't become privy to this or don't know about this, I'm going to play a little bit of this video that I previously recorded just to get you guys caught up to speed. Going to read a little bit, then I'm going to go to something else so it gives some clarity on what I'm speaking about. Many of you are probably unprivy to this rule that was just passed, well, just revised and passed, basically. So I'm going to read a little bit. The New York State Supreme Appellate Division issued a ruling last week that effectively paves the way for quarantine camps in the future, the Brownstone Institute reported. The court's November 17th decision reversed the lower court's ruling that determined the March 2020 Emergency Rule 213 establishing isolation and quarantine procedures was unconstitutional. The lower court ruling stemmed from a lawsuit filed in April 2022 by three New York State lawmakers and the citizens group Uniting NYS, who sued Governor Kathleen Hochul and the New York State Department of Health over Rule 213. The DOH later sought to make the rule permanent by establishing procedures through which the state health officials could isolate or quarantine against their will people who had or were suspected of having a highly contagious communicable disease. The state Supreme Court Judge Ronald Plowitz on July 28, 2022, ruled in favor of the plaintiffs, striking down the law. But last week, the appellate court reversed that decision, ruling that the plaintiffs had no standing to sue because they had not suffered a direct and personal injury. In a statement, the plaintiffs said they were deeply disappointed in the ruling, which did not examine the central question at stake in the lawsuit. All right, guys, so as you can see, I switched my screen. I'm on a platform known as X, formerly known as Twitter. There's a guy on here named @Travis_N_Flint. This is where I got the story from, guys. So I'm just going to read what he wrote. Happening now, the New York Appellate Division has ruled in favor of Governor Kathleen Hochul in the landmark case for government outreach. Rule 213, isolation and quarantine procedures, will give the state of New York the ability to come in your home and take you away to quarantine without any notice for any virus or infection they deem necessary. You won't have any option to fight it. No court date, nothing. The rule has no age limit and they can keep you as long as they'd like. The rule also allows them to treat you as they see fit, including using methods that are still in testing. This is one of the biggest abuses of power this country has ever seen. This is only the beginning. How long until this is nationwide or even global? All right, so this is the part of the show where I just give my raw opinion. I'm angry. So that was something that I brought to you guys previously. So I like to keep you guys up to speed, and I like to refresh your memory about certain things if you haven't heard about it, if you didn't know about it, if you were unprivy to it. I like to bring it to your attention and Then you guys can do the research on your own and find out more in detail about said topic or said issue. If you haven't done so already, follow Street Icon on all social media platforms. That's at Street Icon 1 on all social media platforms. At Street Icon 8080 on the YouTube platform. That's at Street Icon 8080 on the YouTube platform. Drop a comment in the comment section and let me know how you feel about the stories that I brought to you guys today. Did you know about them? How specifically did they make you feel? Any questions you have, drop a comment in the comment section. And always remember, stay vigilant, stay safe. Peace.